What's up everyone, Savage Gamer here, and in this video we will be doing our review on Skydance's Behemoth on PSVR2. So, what is it? Is it worth the $40 price of entry? Does it embrace any of that DEI woke game-killing bullshit? What games would I compare it to? Is this the next must-have title from the developers of Saints and Sinners, or is the hype surrounding it just completely unfounded? Well, that's what we are going to answer in this video, but please make sure to hit like and subscribe. I am a small channel, so without you helping to make it grow, well, it never will. And that sucks, so don't suck. Nobody likes sucks. Be cool, subscribe, and let's get into it. Finally, Behemoth VR has landed, a game many have been absolutely hyped for since its initial teaser trailer way back when PSVR2 first launched. A title many have been whispering about, anticipating, speculating, and fantasizing about what this assumed Shadow of Colossus in VR game actually is. Well, right off the bat, Behemoth lives up to its namesake, boasting a 35 gigabytes of required space for the download, which doesn't sound like much for all of you COD players out there, but in the VR space, that is a lot. Most bigger games only take up to around 10 gigabytes of space, if even that, with the abnormally huge games, say like No Man's Sky VR for example, sitting at somewhere around 22 to 24 gigabytes for perspective. As well as there will be a day 1 patch of unknown size for PSVR2 and a day 7 patch for the Quest headsets to address some of the jank, performance issues, and graphical optimization. So please keep that in mind as well, as I will not be covering a slew of bugs or glitches, as they are most likely going to be taken care of at launch.
I smell fresh meat. Find it! Rip it apart!
It hides because it's scared. Fight us, coward!
Whatever's next, I'm ready.
Whatever's next, I'm ready.
My hunt begins.
Whatever's next, I'm ready.
I was very pleased to find the character creator didn't have any damn pronouns to be found. Just voice A or B and arm style A or B, A being female, B being male, as well as basic color chart for skin color. I was very pleased to see this, as that is all that is ever truly needed by gamers. It's nice to see a developer not blatantly pandering to woke bullshit in order to check a diversity box for virtue's sake. And visually, right away, I can say Behemoth is thankfully approaching the high bar previously set by titles like Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 4 Remake. Although not quite to that astonishing level of polish, it is pretty damn close to it, with surface reflections, dynamic lighting, and shadow effects helping to sell you on the immersion factor within each section that you traverse through. Now, you may have noticed I said section because Behemoth does not take an open world or sandbox-like type of approach, and instead opts up for smaller and linear segments with some light explorational generally being rewarded if you dare to venture slightly off the beaten path, which I definitely appreciated, as it did make me feel as if I discovered something that only the most diligent and attentive players will discover as well. Sound design is up next. Just for the record, I play all PSVR2 games using my Pulse 3D headphones. What can I say? Skydance has always been a powerful contender in the ring of audio, and in particular
I'll use them
3D
to crack
audio.
open that
From
armor.
ambient
Drink
sounds
your
like
guts.
wind, to swords clanking, jars breaking, the grunts of
fresh
climbing, and the
meat.
sounds of things smashing, all resonating and combining to stimulate one's senses, achieving yet another brilliant palette of sound design altogether. And that's not even mentioning the fear-inducing wailing, roaring, and bellowing vocals accompanied with bombastic ground-shaking, stomping, vibrating the haptics of the PSVR2 when behemoths are present. As for the gameplay, well, we really have three entirely different types to cover here. We have the parkour slash platforming environment type of gameplay, then on the ground facing armored enemies, and then again a tectonic shift to taking on the monstrous behemoths. There are also some environmental puzzles you'll encounter, and all are pretty intuitive but do offer a degree of challenge on occasion. Others will come off entirely too simplistic, feeling more like padding than anything truly thought-provoking. This is one of the better examples of puzzles that I discovered where I had to find my way into this tower to begin with, then crush this box down through all levels in order to get to the treasure below. Overall, this was a pretty cool puzzle that took me about 5 or so minutes to complete and rewarded me very well with increasing my health. I enjoyed this puzzle. Now, as for the ground enemies in combat, my best description would be if you combined Legendary Tales with Asgard's Wrath 2 and maybe a hint of Swordsman VR. It's strange to say this, but I don't think that I enjoyed the combat as much as I wanted to, and am still trying to. It honestly just feels very chunky and sloggy at the same time, and a bit more chaotic than robust. Being so heavily focused on melee combat is essentially standing in as the broth to this beef stew of a game. It can be sometimes a bit lackluster and over-encumbering on the player, most of the time being just too damn over-ambitious for its own good. With so many different systems at play, I could never manage to find a one-size-fits-all approach to combat.
Not a behemoth? You not a behemoth?
So I ended up using an exploit, repeatedly stabbing this guy in his dick, and that allowed me to finally kill him. I mean, that's kind of where I had to resort to going without being killed constantly. Some of the one-on-one fights would have me feeling accomplished, similar to a defeat in Swordsman. But other fights, especially when faced with multiple enemies, would have me flailing, attempting to parry one combatant while an enemy off to the side would be launching fucking arrows into my ass. And I'd either have to take this lengthy, methodical route to victory, or I could just use my strength and power through it all, usually on accident, to essentially just Hulk smash my way through everyone in the most unceremonious of ways. This does not carry that same visceral appeal as Saints and Sinners Melee did, with targeting and slicing off zombie limbs and heads to your utmost satisfaction. Instead, feeling more like I needed luck and a full health bar on my side more than any amount of skill or precision.
A wretched villain worships the behemoth here. She offers its sacrifices, bars our path,
Then I'll remove her.
You will make a fine sacrifice. Prepare your soul for death!
Understandably, melee combat has always been a difficult task to undertake in the world of VR development, and through the years I have seen many different iterations of it. Most are pretty bad, some are fairly decent, but one, above all others, to me at least, felt like it finally nailed the way melee should be done and feel in VR. That game being Hellsweeper VR. One of the best examples I can muster up for a demonstration of how to make combat feel impactful, satisfying, and fluid in VR. I want to say Behemoth does a fairly decent job at melee combat, but to be perfectly honest, even with that being said, I just didn't find it to be very fun, and rather found myself thinking, fuck, another battle? Well, let's get this shit over with then. Instead of what I wish I was thinking being, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna make these
Those taken
suckers
by the
bleed,
curse are only free in
and
death.
feeling like a total badass.
There is no
But I didn't have that feeling at all during any moment, so take that for what you will.
village has a
You may
saying,
have a different preference
stranger with a
than
gift
I,
in one
and
hand
this is just a
conceals a
review.
knife in the
It's
other.
not the gospel and all
The road
be all.
ahead holds
It's
what you
simply
seek.
my
A
personal
weapon
opinions
to
and
destroy
experiences
behemoths.
I am sharing with you guys.
We
Moving
both
on
need
to
the
story.
curse lifted. Only then will I escape this darkness.
The story is honestly
We all
to me
will.
as irrelevant as it can get, with some sections being narrated, other dialogue coming by way of characters, scrolls, or crushing magic skulls to give you some bits of lore along the way. I honestly could not tell you one damn thing that was said story-wise here. It just did not capture me enough to really care or feel
Nice
engaged
to
with.
see a new face out here.
Name's Ren.
Call me Trapper. That fool wanted to call me Dinner. Glad you made him die hungry.
They had the curse.
So do you. Black rot on your arms. You'll be one of them soon.
During my playtime in Behemoth, I noticed so many little things that just made me say, why? Why is this like that? For example, the medicine pouches. Basically your Estus flask in the world of Behemoth. You can only collect 4, while I encountered many more I had to just leave behind in areas I wouldn't have had a reason to even use one to replenish one. But even more baffling are the herbs, placed throughout each level with hearty proportions that you eat to gain a small amount of health back but cannot save up at all. So why even have these herbs at all when you could just not limit the ability to carrying flasks to just 4 at a time? It makes no sense to me at all because I constantly had 4 flasks at all times and left 10 or more behind. I just don't get the need for these herbs.
Away from me, demon! You're in my thoughts.
Personally, I think removing the limitations on the flasks and allowing you to keep all that you encounter would completely eliminate the necessity of even having these herbs spread throughout the game. Another baffling decision to me is due to total lack of environmental objects that you can interact with, which is less immersive, and that's fine if done correctly. And Behemoth almost does this right by only allowing you to interact and pick up objects relevant to you, like weapons, flash, shields, herbs, those magic skulls, some treasures, upgrades, and scrolls. But then it also becomes utterly confusing when on occasion it allows you to pick up items that look cool and you think they are useful, however they end up being entirely meaningless to you.
Concentrate. Let strength flow into your fist. Then, strike that wall with all your might.
I guess an example I'll use are some armored helmets I thought that I could wear, but I couldn't. So I figured, okay, maybe they're treasure, and they aren't. I couldn't use them, couldn't equip or wear them. Couldn't sell them, couldn't collect them as a keepsake. It's essentially just litter, but not something that you encounter frequently. So when you do come across something of that nature, you instinctively attempt to procure it, wasting time second guessing yourself as if you may be doing something wrong, or is it just a bug? Most of the items that you do collect are found within here, your home where all your trophies and keepsakes end up at the end. But anyway, what was the purpose of including these items in a game at all as an interactive item when it would make no difference if they were just static?
This honors a legendary warrior who sacrificed all for their order and left you a gift. Light the brazier. Make an offering.
That fire. Are you doing this?
The fire within you. I can direct it.
Now let's talk about the stamina bar. I don't fucking get it. Your stamina bar never seems to become a dire factor during all the different physical type of activities you'll do. Climbing, jumping, running, it may go down slightly, if at all, but swing a fucking sword more than twice and it's as if the hand of God pulls you right out of the fight for a moment, which is super jarring, only to discover it's because your stamina dropped to 0. Give it 3 seconds and it's entirely filled again. This mechanic does nothing to benefit the game, in my opinion. All it does is hold the player back at the worst moments to be held back. I would absolutely love an option to toggle the stamina completely off, as I strongly believe it would make for a much more enjoyable time spent engaged while in combat.
This place was a stronghold. Many who opposed the foul behemoths gathered here.
Now let's talk about the strength meter. While it does offer some pretty cool moments in battle, I swear I have never accidentally triggered anything more than I have with that strength meter due to it being on the literal right trigger button, meaning that every time I went to firmly grab an item, I start roid raging out for no reason, making me feel like a fucking idiot. But it's seriously unavoidable, and I guarantee you will also have this issue repeatedly throughout your gameplay. Now, on to the main event, the Behemoths.
Do not waste time with an old fool. The behemoth awaits.
I'm moving on. I've got bigger prey than marauders.
What can I say besides fucking wow? I mean, the sheer scale and magnitude of these monoliths is just jaw-dropping and awe-inducing. As a longtime fan of Shadow of the Colossus since its PS3 days, I was simply captivated when facing the magnificence of these mountain-sized beasts.
No mortal has ever survived the battle that awaits you.
What chance do I have?
I've seen your abilities firsthand. Your fire. You are not alone.
While it doesn't have the complexity of taking down a Colossus in Shadow, it absolutely nails that picturesque fantasy many of you have always dreamed about and puts it directly in your face with you right there feeling like a grasshopper in comparison to a giraffe. It is truly mesmerizing, and this is the biggest aspect of Behemoth's appeal to me and for all of you Shadow fans out there. This is exactly what you have always hoped to have access to in VR. While it does take a much simpler and hand-holding approach to fighting the behemoths, rather than the methodical climbing and timing your strikes that Shadows is revered for, in Behemoth it tries its best to mimic that same level of David versus Godzilla without the freedom to navigate how you'll conquer the beast to victory. It is incredibly scripted type of combat, reminiscent more of a quick time event rather than a free-for-all until you or it falls. But that did not change the feeling of accomplishment that I had when I did manage to take down my first behemoth and it finally fell. It was fucking epic.
Imagine the blade whole in your mind.
After you manage to take down your first behemoth, it's at this point in the game where leveling up your character as well as upgrading and repairing your weapons starts to be introduced, which I was grateful to discover that there was in fact some sort of skill tree and leveling upgrading system at play in Behemoth, giving me something I found satisfying enough about to want to continue pushing forward. So, what is my final verdict on Behemoth?
And review what lies beneath. Look at that. Crag Jaeger reforged. Now that's a blade to take down a behemoth.
Well, as always, I'm going to be completely honest. It's just not that simple of a question to answer due to the complexities of being a reviewer who at least still has integrity and trust from my viewers, something that means more to me than any monetary compensation could ever provide. But sadly, we see those traits falling wayside in exchange for review keys, ad revenue, and clout amongst certain communities.
Heard you
And
talking.
I'm looking right at you,
Make a new
IGN.
friend.
Veilguard, a 9
Secrets
out
are
of 10, eh?
currency.
Yeah,
Demand
okay.
answers, do not
Anyways,
provide them.
Are you full?
Behemoth is one of a rare case where I even had to have multiple discussions with fellow content creators to get their takes in covering things for my review. You see, sometimes it is beneficial to have multiple different takes on a title that you know some will find amazing and others may just loathe entirely. And that is perfectly fine as well, but I think Behemoth is going to be somewhat of a polarizing title. So I was not in the camp of loathing Behemoth, not at all. I found many things I greatly appreciated within this game, but I also am far removed from being in the I absolutely love this game category either. The reason this is so difficult to review is because while it does some things I really do enjoy, such as the level design, the graphics, that incredible sense of scale when facing a behemoth, which is something I have never experienced in any VR game prior to Behemoth, as well as the sound design and the perfection that is the musical score accompanying me through this fantasy adventure every single step of the way, along with the upgrade system giving me something to look forward to building on and becoming more powerful. But then there are the not so great moments, like basically all of the combat. I just do not enjoy it. And it's rather a big part of this game to not want to engage with it. But that is the truth. I never began or finished a battle feeling satisfied. It always felt like an annoying obstacle I had to overcome in order to progress through the story, which is another thing I didn't like, the story. Now, I don't know why or what happened to explain why I just never gave a shit about the story here, but all I know is there is some sort of rot growing on me and I have to kill behemoths to end it. I think. I don't know though, because no matter how the game attempted to disclose this information surrounding the story to me, it just never felt compelling enough to hold my attention or retain my memory of it. I can't even say what was boring because I'd at least remember being told a boring story. I guess that best describes my thoughts on the story. It's just unmemorable. If you had to ask me about the story or what I thought, my answer would be, I don't know. Maybe it's great, maybe it sucks, but I don't know. Because for some reason, my brain decided that it wasn't worth listening to, even though I really did try to. Also, just another reminder that I will not be covering glitches, bugs, or graphical anomalies, and while I did face several of them, as well as pop-in and other visual issues, I will reiterate that there is a day one patch coming to PSVR2 addressing most of, if not all of those issues. So I can only assume that they will be alleviated at the time of the official launch for PSVR2 and then a week after launch for Quest players. So take note that those types of concerns will not be factored into this review, nor will the foretold additional DLC content coming to Behemoth be a factor in my review. And while I am very pleased to hear that there will be DLC, it in no way affects this review. So with all that has been stated, where do I sit with Behemoth? Please listen carefully. My blunt, honest score for Behemoth is an 8 out of 10. But allow me to explain why I've come to this decision. Because in all honesty, there is so much of this game that I do not enjoy. I just flat out did not like, nor have any fun with it. So why such an admirable score then? Because for what it does right for me, it feels justified, taking into account its $40 cost of admission. I really enjoyed this world it brought to me, and the level of polish to it, the audio landscape being just remarkable from the start, helping to carry me through each moment, and then the astonishing sense of scale when faced with a behemoth is truly monumental and memorable. All of you Shadow of Colossus fans are going to straight up nut in your fucking undies just being able to see such a sight to behold in VR. And I can appreciate what Skydance has attempted to do here, but at the same time, I'm feeling a bit disappointed in its delivery on many aspects within this game. I would feel so much more comfortable recommending this to you all if it was $29.99 as opposed to $40. But at the same time, I could say with a confident level of certainty, many of you Shadow fans will have no problem paying the $40 just to partake in such a jaw-dropping spectacle. Anyways, that's going to do it for this review. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. I hope that you enjoyed it. Give me your take in the comment. Will you pick it up or not? And on that note, have fun, stay savage, keep gaming. I'm out, y'all. Peace.